Our next speaker is Ishimaru, and the title of her talk is Families as Fellow Leaders on the Journey to Educational Justice.
Good evening. When you think about an educational leader, who do you imagine? Perhaps you think about the superintendent of a school district or an elected school board member. A lot of folks around schools tend to think about the principal. But what if I told you that in every school in every district we had potential leaders, but that we routinely overlook and dismiss the expertise of those leaders? Hold that thought. Now I'd like you to imagine a mother named Maria and her son Alejandro. Now at the beginning of the year, Ale was super excited to go to kindergarten. But about a week in, he started crying in the morning and saying he didn't want to go to school. Now, Maria knew it would be challenging for him to be in an all-English environment, so she thought at first it was just the transition. But then it kept going on, and Ale came home and started talking about a boy with yellow hair who said mean things to him. He told him to go back where he came from. He would pinch his skin and tell him it was dirty. Maria was alarmed and sought out the teacher to talk to her. But the teacher told her that she couldn't discuss other students and that Ali would be just fine if he could keep his hands to himself, and she really would appreciate if Maria could support that at home by ensuring that the discipline there was consistent with the expectations and the discipline that Ale received at school. Well, that made Maria feel a little like she was to blame for Ale's struggles. Then Maria's neighbor invited her to a meeting with the principal and other parents to talk about racial bullying at the school. At that meeting, the principal said not to worry, that the situation was being handled because the district had just adopted a new social-emotional learning curriculum, and not to worry. And she sent the parents home. Now at this point you might be thinking, poor Alejandro, poor Maria, but that's not the point of my story. Now, we know that the kinds of struggles that Maria experienced in supporting Ale is just one example of the many racial inequities that students and families in our schools are facing every day. We have a lot of evidence that we've not been doing well by all of our kids for a long time. Black students are twice as likely to be suspended as white students. We have long-standing racial inequities in access to high-quality learning. We have very few teachers of color. Those aren't just national trends out there. We actually know that those racial disparities are particularly stark here in Seattle and in King County. You've probably also heard about this so-called achievement gap. And scholars like Gloria Ladson-Bilding have helped us to see that those test score disparities are just a symptom of a much larger education debt owed to Native, Black, and immigrant students. Now that education debt has a lot of dimensions: economic, historical, social, political, moral. But the short of it is that schools work just fine for some of us, for me and probably for most of you. But it doesn't take a PhD to recognize that we haven't been doing well by all of our students for a very long time, and those effects accumulate. Many of our Black, Native, and immigrant students today experience their schools as places of hostility and exclusion. Now back to leadership. We know that leaders matter in making change. But our schools and districts have been struggling to address these long-standing racial inequities. Might we be overlooking, though, a really crucial source of expertise and leadership? Let's go back to Maria's scenario. Now, schools see Maria as just a parent who has trouble accessing and understanding how to navigate the system, who doesn't support her son in the way that white middle-class educators expect her to. But what if we saw Maria's lived experiences of racial inequities, her cultural practices, as forms of expertise? What if we approached Maria as an expert on her own child, on his learning priorities and needs, his language, his culture, his community? What if we approached Maria as a potential educational leader who could collaborate with others to help foster more equitable schools? Now, when something like this happened with Ale in one district, the educators there did something different. With the support of my research team, the district leaders there partnered with parents like Maria, with teachers and principals. And together they created a curriculum to help parents address issues of bullying in their school and to help partner with educators to keep improving their school. We did this through a process called solidarity-driven co-design. There's been a groundswell of interest in solidarity-driven co-design. In the book I just published, I get to share some of what I've learned about how to tap the expertise of families and communities to foster educational justice. Solidarity-driven co-design also has a national scope. With Dr. Megan Bang and the Family Leadership Design Collaborative, we've been collaborating with families and communities, educators, and researchers across the country, from Salt Lake City, Utah, to Central Falls, Rhode Island, from South Los Angeles to urban Chicago, and here in Southeast Seattle. So when we think about an educational leader, let's think beyond just the boss with the title. Let's think about how we might partner and collaborate with the families and communities who bring expertise and leadership that we've been missing. Thank you.